Hi there, good evening to you here from a very, very sunny and hot Ireland. At 5 o'clock this evening, it registered 33 degrees centigrade outside my house, which is a record, I think, in my lifetime anyway. So good morning to you, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's just lovely to see you, and welcome to another Fireside Chat, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovids and Druids. So just type in your names. I see Johanna, I hope I'm pronouncing it, from Sweden, and Sylvain. Greetings from my friends and family, lovely. And Sherry from New York, wonderful. Hi, Mervyn from Skegness, lovely to see you. And Stefan from County Louth. And Lisa from Washington. And Vanna from Rome, ciao. And Jos from Minnesota, wonderful. And Jenna from Texas, lovely. And Shkoti from Birmingham. And hi, Sue from Northampton, lovely to see you. And John from Slough. Listen, you're all very, very welcome. And we've got somebody from Ulster, and Pat and Anne from Montreal. You're all very, very welcome. So, and Ren's from the Netherlands, and Patricia from San Diego, wonderful. So let me introduce you. This is my penultimate Fireside Chat for this season. I've decided I'm going to take the month of August off. I'm quite tired and I really need to get a complete break. And but I will be back again in September. So I have one more conversation next week, and then I'll just take 4 weeks off for the month of August. So let me introduce you to my guest this evening, and we're going to Germany. And I'd like you to meet Stefan Kaiser. Stefan, you're so welcome.
Hello. Hi, Eimear. Hi, Eimear.
So you are, thanks Blake, who tells everyone deserves a break. I do, and I hope I will enjoy it. So Stefan, tell us where, I know you're in Germany, but tell us a little about where you are.
Yeah, so I live in Wiesbaden currently. So I come from the southwest, originally from Worms.
What diet is? I remember reading about the diet of worms in history.
That's right. Martin Luther were there.
That's right.
And this, yeah. But now I live in Wiesbaden near Frankfurt because I work normally in Wiesbaden. I'm in my home office for more than a year now.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I'm working in the banking industry in Frankfurt as a consultant.
So how does banking? How does that blend with Druidry?
It's, let's say, it balances it, I think. Yeah. So I think it was my whole life this way. I had this professional necessity to earn money. Mm-hmm. But then there was another side of myself, which is, not the guy with the tie. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
A bit different, yeah.
Okay. So tell us, what's Wiesbaden like in terms of landscape? And
yeah, it's, let's say, a city founded, let's say, it really grows 100 years ago, yeah, in the Jugendstil time, when during the industrialization. But it is, let's say, an old Celtic town even, yeah. There are hot springs. It's a bit like Bath in England.
Oh, lovely.
There are many hot springs, and there is forest around the city. It's actually quite a nice place, yeah. It's quieter than Frankfurt, so it's nicer to live here and work maybe in Frankfurt. But Wiesbaden is a nice town.
And do you have much kind of rural landscape or woodland, or what have you got? Mountains, lakes? What kind of a landscape do you have?
There's the River Rhine, of course.
Yes.
So yeah, and then there is. It's quite hilly. There is it's forest around Wiesbaden, and then not far away there are all this vineyard hills. There's a wine area also.
Okay.
Actually, Wiesbaden is the let's say, center of Germany. Yeah, all the big sects, these sparkling wines, they are produced here, I think, or at least the companies are here. Yeah, and much is also produced here. Yeah. Yeah. So we have wine and sect.
Hey.
But we also have old history. Yeah? We even had, let's say, as I said, we had Romans here, we had the Celts here, we have They have found places with the goddess Diana or Sirona, a lot of mitras, and all because of the hot springs. Yeah, it was even 2,000 years ago. It was also a nice place, as it is now.
And what kind of a mark have all these, or I suppose what kind of influences have these various cultures had on Wiesbaden, do you think?
Well, you still have these old places. It's a good point. I think the character comes more really from the wealth which was made more than 100 years ago during the industrialization. Yeah, I think this is the main spirit. Yeah, there are all these old houses built, let's say, in 1900 around this. Yeah, so this is the main spirit. Yeah, opposite of Wiesbaden is Mainz. This is more a medieval city.
Mainz.
Mainz, yeah. So Mainz, yeah. This is the other, and on the other side in Wiesbaden, it is more, let's say, it has the flair of the industrialization, but not, let's say, a negative one. It's more, let's say, a lot of beautiful houses from this time. Yeah. So it's this old Celtic stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah. If you, most people are not quite aware of it. Yeah. But let's say, but as a Druid, of course, yeah, I'm looking for this, and there's much to see or find out. Yeah.
So, are there any special Celtic sites there near you?
There is one place, and let's say a wall from the Roman times where there are still lots of reliefs. How do you say? Yeah, reliefs.
Yeah.
Where you can see, let's say, old Roman figures, or there is, and in the museum you can see this carvings of Sirona, and so this you can see, but it's not so much. It's actually on the other side of the Rhine. There is, let's say, there was a former temple of Nemetona, and her.
Nemetona, yeah,
Nemetona, yeah. So she is. Yeah, she is in Sirona. So Sirona and Eimear from the Celtic time, they have several springs and temples, and there's really on the other side of the Rhine, there's even a valley, which I would say is the Valley of the Goddess. Yeah, there's a place, there's a former temple of Nemetona, and really on the other side of this valley, there is now they have built a grotto for Mary. Yeah. So there is this other aspect of the goddess, yeah, the Christian aspect of the goddess, yeah. On the one hand side, on the other hand side is Nemetona, yeah. And there you really feel it, yeah, that this is a valley of the goddess, yeah.
That is so beautiful, because we don't have any temples to the goddess, but in Ireland the goddess is embedded in the landscape. So we have the Paps of Danu, which are on the Cork-Kerry border, and they're two huge breasts with erect nipples on the top.
Yeah,
you can see her, and then you can see her belly in the landscape. And so we don't actually have temples or man-made things. She's actually there in the landscape, except for Mary, because you'll find these little grottos everywhere in rural Ireland, on country roads, at crossroads, and things like that. So it's an interesting contrast that you have those there. Somebody asked, how do you spell Wiesbaden?
It's spelled Wiesbaden.
Thank you. Anne Beard, that's what she did. She spelled it correctly. Thank you very much for that. Just somebody wanted to know. And William, I can't pronounce his name. Greetings from the Black Forest. So I don't know how far you are from the Black Forest.
200 kilometers, I think.
Okay. In Germany, that's probably not far, is it?
Yeah, not too far. Yeah.
So, what brought you to Druidry?
Oh, yeah, this a long way, yeah, and coincidences also, yeah. I had a very early contact, let's say, over 30 years ago, yeah. I had a book in my hand in a let's say, a very popular spiritual bookshop in Worms, yeah, and it was from Caitlin and John Matthews, the Western Way or Western Path, I don't know, And I thought it's quite interesting. I bought it, and I've read a couple of pages, and then it disappeared in my bookshelf, and I never touched it. And then I came to Buddhism, So then for the next 10, 15 years, I was very much involved in this, And there I was very much involved, even lately in with Tibetan Buddhism. And then after a while, I couldn't bear all this Tibetan, this language, because I cannot speak Tibetan. And many stuff wasn't Tibetan, and they were getting more and more bodhisattvas and gods and goddesses. And I thought, it's really it's like really in the Catholic Church with all their saints, And then I got bored after, let's say, I think 15, 20 years of very intensive time, I must admit. And then I converted somehow back to Christianity, but more to the Celtic part. And there I found out that many of people in this scene, they were also Druids. And this was where I thought, you cannot do Celtic Christianity if you don't nothing about Druidry. And I thought, this is my thing. And then my partner, she wasn't at all Christian, and we thought, Druidry, this is, let's say, where we have our intersection, or we can do together. And then we did the course together in OBOD, and we lived happy ever after, how you say?
Beautiful.
This is my part of Druidry, and this is my main spiritual path, I must say.
Are you a member of a grove? Do you have a grove near you, or a seed group?
Yeah, we have a grove in Wiesbaden. So my partner, my wife, and myself, we are in the Druid grade, and so we founded some years first a seed group, then a grove, and now we have a group in Wiesbaden also.
Oh, wonderful!
We have also a group. So we have some activities.
Okay, so I know you're. We met in Germany. 2019 seems so long ago, at an OBOD gathering there, and I know you're into environmental activism. Would you like to speak about that?
Yes, I'm. This is what I do. I'm doing this for so longer since Druidry, but then it was, let's say, for years I did not do much. And then in Germany it cooked up. Let's say Hambacher forest, where they wanted to cut down the forest because of coal mining, and then I started to get back here, and then I also came across the Warriors Call, So it brought, let's say, the spiritual side into my environmental activism, and this is really, and then of course it came Extinction Rebellion, where I was active. And here, spirituality and environmental activism, this really came together, and I really, I really thought this is very important, and it still is. It's due to Corona, all a bit quieter, of course, there is not so much going on, but it's necessary than always, So, and I also then I after a while I came to the. Let's say I thought what is missing in Druidry and is, let's say, the combination of, let's say, the philosophical side with environmentalism, and then I brought, let's say, for myself together deep ecology, this philosophy of deep ecology with Druidry, where and this is, let's say, a major feature of deep ecology is that you have. Let's say, religions or philosophies which, let's say, plug into this philosophy. They give this what they call level one. They have different levels, and the level one is the, let's say, the philosophical or spiritual side, and it joins into the philosophy. And I thought, we don't have this really in Druidry, and let's say by comparison with other religions, there's eco-Buddhism or eco-Dharma, there's eco-Christianity, eco-whatever, yeah. And I thought, okay, so we need eco-Druidry, yeah. So, and I try to formulate it out a bit, but it's still very much at the beginning, yeah. So I know there is, let's say, we need, let's say, this, and it totally fits also, yeah. There is the Druid philosophy, spirituality, which really fits into deep ecology very good, yeah. So this is what I also did next to being on the streets, yeah, in Berlin or wherever.
This is in your activism.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just expand for our viewers on, just broaden it out a bit, unpack it a bit more, what eco-Druidry is for you?
It is, let's say, it gives the big picture, yeah, for environmental activism, yeah. Of course, we all know it's necessary. We go out the street, we do it, we fight for climate or against climate change and all this, or fracking in England, what the warriors do.
Yeah.
But it connects us also with other spiritualities, yeah, by, let's say, plugging into deep ecology, which is, as I said, as a main feature, it is open to that spiritualities, religions, philosophies plug into it, or but this we can also learn from it. Yeah, for example, let's say Jonna Macy. Yeah, she the work that reconnects. Yeah, she is Buddhist, and she brought this concept, which is very much also aligned with our cycle of the year. So she brought this concept into deep ecology. And it is so fitting for us too, yeah. So, yeah, this is what it is, yeah. So we have the big picture. We are connected to a proper philosophy, and we can connect with others. So this is what it is for me, yeah. And by having, for example, this work that reconnects from Jonna Macy, it helps. Let's say there is a lot of experience there. She does it for decades. I don't know how long. She's 80, I think now. Yeah, she's over 80, so she has a lot of experience, and she also knows what we have to do not to burn out with it. Yeah, what is a typical phenomenon of let's say environmental movements or whatever movements? They burn out very quickly, and it helps to have this spiritual side and this experience side to avoid it. Yeah, so this is what it, I think, brings. Yeah. I
remember watching her because I've been using her work for many years on a course I teach in development studies. Well, I used to teach. I've retired now from it, both in Africa and here in Ireland, on development studies, human development. And I've heard her speak. When you talk about burnout, and hence my taking a month off, is that you can't. When you look at all of the issues, you can't take all of them on. You have to be able to say, I can choose one or a few and really work with that rather than burn yourself out. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you cannot do everything. Yeah, it's exhausting because it's not so friendly what you do. Yeah, and the reactions you get. Yeah, you fight against windmills. It's difficult, yeah. If you get, let's say, arrested, or if you're on the streets, and even inside the movements, it is stressful, yeah. They're not always nice people, and they are, let's say, the different backgrounds, and then you say a wrong word which is not politically correct, yeah. Then you get a shitstorm, and there are not clear hierarchies. Let's say there are not management structures. It is everyone wants to speak and can speak. It's like a Extinction Rebellion. Yeah? There is a lot of struggle going on because there are no clear, let's say, responsibilities. Yeah, so everyone can found a group and say, so I do this, I'm responsible for this, and said, okay, but you're not speaking for me. And then the trouble starts. And this is in all movements. And so
are you still involved with Extinction Rebellion?
Slightly. So I have withdrawn a bit, but I'm still active in the Faith Bridge in Germany, in the German Faith Bridge, where, let's say...
Sorry, the German what?
The Faith Bridge.
What's the Faith Bridge?
A faith. It's like a religion, yeah?
Yeah.
It is, let's say, a nice picture. It's not only a bridge between the religions or spiritualities, but also it is actually happening on a bridge. So last year, for example, in October, we had a blockade on a bridge with people from the Faith Bridge, and here we had actually kind of a Druid Ritual. Yeah, so we combine. There are, let's say, people from all sides. Yeah, and we let's say thought how do we organize what we do here, and we want to do a ritual kind of thing. Yeah. And there were no good ideas, but because I had a lot of good ideas, because I thought, okay, let's do something with the directions, the elements. They get polluted, they get destroyed, the air gets hot, and then we had, let's say, this Druid part, but this very good combines with the work that reconnects. This circle very much. Yeah, it's very also elemental, and is also reflects a bit the circle of the year. Yeah. So, for example, when you think of the accepting your pain,
yes,
it is the winter part. I think, yeah. Only actually, no, it starts with thankfulness. Yeah, and the thankfulness is, of course, let's say west, the autumn part. Then you accept the pain you have, this winter, and then then come the next two phases, and it's totally fits. It was really perfect for our thing, and so this is what we did, and all loved it. Yeah, so everyone could, and every, let's say, religion or spirituality had a direction. There was a Buddhist side, a Christian side, and this was what was nice. It was very nice. Yeah.
That is beautiful. There's some interesting comments here from Blake. Bridges are wonderful symbolism for the cause. In addition, the layer of it being liminal space adds such a wonderful magical power.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And Anne says, how fascinating to have a bridge as a real symbol for this initiative. Beautiful to make connections visible. And then Sylvain says, it's really hard to get humanity to see past greed, long enough to care about Earth and her inhabitants. I believe the eco-movements will prevail over the corruption of humanity, no matter how long it takes. Your work, Stefan, is paving the way for a much better future and a new beginning. And then somebody called Healing Art. Yeah, I burnt out at Occupy movements that threaten change. Movements that threaten change are targeted from the inside and without. Absolutely exhausting. I mean, I think these movements are led by human beings, and we have, good and bad and effective and ineffective behaviors within our repertoire. And when we get involved in power struggles and all of this, or people not feeling heard, or lots and lots of conflict, I can imagine how difficult it is. Just think of our families.
Oh, yeah.
We don't get to choose who's in our family, and nor do we get to choose who's in movements, unless, it's that you get that and you want to be as open as you can, but there's a price to be paid for that. You can easily choose to have only the people that agree with you in one group, which can be fairly, it becomes very, very stagnant. But then when you invite all of this diversity, then you have to learn how to navigate your way through it. And I don't know how you can do that. That's really, really challenging.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember a few weeks back, I had Stephen Barnes as a guest on this, and Stephen is retired now, but he was a policeman, and he worked in Hyde Park and Kensington, so he was there on duty when XR had their big demonstration, and he was very, very supportive. He was also, though, of the view that protesting doesn't really work, and I wonder what you think. It's not that he's anti-protesting. He was just questioning the efficacy of protests. And I'm wondering, what's your view on that?
It depends on the growth of the movement, on the size. I mean, there is this theory which was, let's say, by Roger Hallam and this scientist, where said when you have, let's say, 3% of the population on your side, you win. It doesn't. You don't need 50% like in parliamentary elections. It is enough. And when I think it had an effect, even Extinction Rebellion, I think due to Corona and inside conflicts, it's smaller now. But it had an effect in France. They have actually took up the idea of these councils, these independent, how you say in English, civil councils, or how you say, or this, where which will get, let's say, the power to decide on environmental action, and they have actually done it. So, and the idea came from, I think, from Extinction Rebellion, and in the beginning of Extinction Rebellion in England, they had. The government in Britain, they announced the climate emergency. So there was, I think, and even maybe the larger movement, Fridays for Future, I think they have a lot of power and influence. So I think it brings, if you are only 10 people and you won't change the country, you might raise awareness in the town you live, But in the size we had for Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion for a while, and then I think it has an effect.
It's really interesting. My stepson, William, who passed 2007, he was involved. He was an eco warrior for years, and he spent 9 years at the Nine Ladies Stone Circle in Derbyshire, trying to protect it from a quarry. And they actually succeeded at a time when it was very, very difficult to do that. Now they won their campaign just maybe a year after William died, but that was interesting. That and it was really interesting. These, of course, there's good and bad people, and there's conflict, and there's also things that work really, really well. But they, lived in the woods and created sky rafts where they had 3 months' supply of food if they if they were going to be taken away, or. It fascinates me, for some who can dedicate their lives to that and throw their lot in, and he was one such person who could do that. But
I think they're heroes. They're heroes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he didn't live to see it. But it was great to see that, and it's a beautiful little stone circle. The Nine Ladies, they're tiny. They're not big monoliths, but just lovely to see it. Blake has another comment. We have such hard work to engage in, and those in the Druid community, we are often drawn to it. I suppose because we're both moved and equipped through our own work. Burnout in such hard work seems an almost certain risk. It is popular right now for people to criticize self-care as selfish. I argue that it is vital. If we do not take care of our own spirits, how can we continue to help work for the benefit of others? Would you care to comment on that?
I think he's totally right.
I know as a psychologist and as a psychotherapist, obviously we're there supporting clients in terms of caring for themselves, but there's a huge emphasis on self-care, because you are no good to anybody if you burn out. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And it can quickly happen, of course. There was one nice thing, that even Druidry helped me at one part. There was, it's maybe coincidence, of course, but I believe it had an effect. We had in 2018, I believe, they wanted to cut down a forest, as I said, in the Hambach forest. Yeah. And then we, let's say, did a magical action with the Druid, let's say the OBODs in Germany. We let's say we had a visualized a circle around this forest, and we consecrated it as a grove, as an OBOD grove, a forest. And a day or 2 days later, it even, they stopped the deforestation. And judges said they didn't say it's not allowed anymore. Yeah, so stop it. Yeah. And so it was a victory on let's say, a full-blown victory. Yeah. So we put it under the protection of Nemetona. We consecrated the forest. And this is also what the warriors do. Yeah, this is their way of activism. They, instead of how you say this, sacrificing, or no, how you say, you can consecrate and you do the opposite.
You can deconsecrate. Yeah,
you can deconsecrate. Yeah, and what the industry does, or the society does, is deconsecrate, or the landscape with, I don't know, with industry, with pollution, etc. Yeah? And doing the opposite, the consecrated, brings back, let's say, this magic and this protection. Yeah, and really worked. Yeah, it was maybe coincident, but
maybe you'll never know. But I remember being involved in the Wires Call rituals here, because they sent out the ritual, and I remember the first one was, I can't even remember the year. But it was for the autumn equinox, and then they had one for the following spring equinox, and that one was about water. And doing that, and I think it does because it creates an awakening, and there's also the sense that it gives you some kind of agency, and but when you say that things have stopped as a result of a ritual, I think there's magic there. I mean, we attribute lots of things to different things, but I'd never underestimate the power of ritual to create change. I mean, if you believe in the power of prayer, and many people do, and of course the opposite, negative thinking also has an impact. But when we can focus on what it is that we want, like to consecrate as opposed to deconsecrate, I think that we cannot underestimate its power.
Yeah, that's right.
And also it's a grounding, even when we get very, very helpless about the destruction to the landscape, or you have developers coming in to build whatever it is they want. Having ritual, I think, is a very, very grounding process to keep us connected with the earth, even if the development still goes on. But there's something also about our connection to the earth that I find really reassuring, to be able to do ritual like that.
Yeah, right. I think it also, it is not only, it is a kind of magic which, let's say, from a rational point of view, also works. Because I think politicians and people in power, they see, when people do rituals and do, let's say, consecrate places, they see how the people value it. And they create really a sacred place, and to desecrate, to deconsecrate it afterwards, or to destroy it afterwards, it is much harder to do, really.
Yeah.
Because it is a consecrated place. And it's like if you would, let's say, pull down church, or even businessmen or politicians don't like to do it.
No, and I suppose it's about creating the awareness that, woods and places in the landscape are sacred places, just as temples and churches and cathedrals are.
Yeah.
So Annie says, I think we can consecrate many places, just send it by intent. And I think so, that intention is very, very powerful. So you've done research in Druid history, is that right?
Yes, it's my hobby, let's say, to drill down sometimes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So tell us. I'm sure our viewers would be delighted to hear all about this.
I found, let's say, some funny things. Yeah. And it all started with, let's say, Ronald Hutton's book, Blood and Mistletoe. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
well, this man knows too much. Yeah. So if I would be an Italian, yeah, you know, I don't know what I would do with him. Yeah. But one statement, this really shocked me, was he said, you know, Nguyen's book, the Book of Druidry or on Druidry,
yeah.
you know, he classified it as it is a very comprehensive collection of misinformation. And I thought, how can you say it?
Sorry, Ronald Hutton said this about Ross Nichols' book.
Yeah, a very comprehensive collection of misinformation.
Okay.
Regarding the history.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, because, you know, Nguyen was, I think, still from an age he was a successor of a lineage, yeah. Mm. And you know, the official version of Druid Renaissance starts, I think, at the beginning of the 18th century, yeah. But as a matter of fact, the first century is a fake. It is didn't really happen. Yeah. So this is mirroring Freemasonry. Yeah. So from the time frame, it really starts end of the 18th century, maybe. Yeah. But not at the beginning. So this was one thing. Yeah. And yeah, other, you know, but where he. What I quite liked what he wrote, and there, you know, I'm a German, yeah. So I took, let's say, the historical bits he wrote in his book about the German part, and I was quite amazed that actually Neo-Druidry started in Germany. Yeah, I was quite amazed. Yeah, so the Druid Renaissance didn't start at the beginning of the 18th century, but in, let's say, at 1500, even earlier than the Reformation. There was a strange Benedictine abbot in Germany, actually quite close where I live. Yeah. Oh. And he was the first guy who called himself a Druid. And his abbey he called the home of the Druids.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, yeah. I thought, oh, wow, this is interesting, yeah. And this is always not talked about. Yeah, you know, when you hear, let's say, in England or on the islands, when they talk about, yeah, Druidry is 300 years old. Yeah,
yes.
It's not true. It's 500 years old. And I think it started here, yeah, because what Ronald Hutton wrote, and I went into the original sources a bit more than afterwards. Yeah? He wrote that it started at the place on the left side of the Rhine, yeah, and the left side of the Rhine, according to Julius Caesar, was the Gaul, or how you say Gaul, yeah,
yeah.
So it was where actually Druids lived, yeah. So therefore, this abbot could say, yeah, we live in Gaul, yeah, so we are Druids, even though he was a German, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was patriotism, let's say, this Rhineland patriotism, let's say, yeah. And then it moved to France because the French thought, no, we had the Druids, yeah, we were the Gauls, in fact. And from there, it moved through France to Britain. So, but it really, let's say, went into a sleep on the continent, and it really flourished. And then maybe this is a real renaissance, yeah, on the British Isles and Ireland, etc.
Well, you see, many here would say it never died out here in Ireland. That it kind of went underground, and that many of the Druids here, when when Christianity came, when Christians came, that many of them became Christian monks and nuns, and so you have that Celtic Christian church here, that not Roman. I mean, Roman came subsequently, but you had that, and the two ran side by side for many, many years until Rome won. But that we had our bardic schools right up to the 1700s. And then you would have had, I suppose, we had our Brehon laws. I mean, that they were pre-Christian. They were, wait a second now, they were, I think, about 700 years old when Lyra, the last pagan high king, wanted to have them written down. So according to one story is that he had so many people, including St. Patrick, to write them down. And those Brehon laws were used, and they're very, very progressive legal system, one of the most progressive in Europe, particularly for women, until the 1600s, until the penal laws. Our colonial masters introduced the penal laws and removed the Brehon laws. So we had Brehons, which would have been a Druidic role, and then we would have had healers. There's lots of Irish names in the Irish language to describe healers, herbalists, prophets, seers. Fila is the Irish word for poet, and that would be the word we would normally use to describe a poet. But what it means is it means a poet seer. So the divinatory aspect. So that we had that, and then it kind of went down underground. And then there are some people who'd say, you know, they come from a lineage of Druids. I'm not so sure about that, but you know, but that it was there in the landscape. So when I've never had to hide the fact that I'm a Druid here in Ireland, and I taught in a Roman Catholic seminary for many, many years. People say, "Oh, they're always fascinated because somehow it touches something beneath the surface." So even though, well, Roman Catholicism has really lost its influence here because of all the shenanigans in the last 20 years, where up to that it had a really firm hold on the country here. But you could talk about Druids, and there's always a fascination because somehow it touches something, some place within, either in an ancient memory or a consciousness. So it didn't really die. So I'm claiming we're here longer than you. Just, I'm not bragging. I'm not. You say 1500s. But I think it's fascinating because so often people associate, you know, the Celts with Britain and Ireland and Wales and Scotland and Brittany, and forget actually, no, there is a European, mainland European Celtic history as well. I mean, where did the Celts come from? We're not so sure. There's so many theories, and every 5 years is something that's revised, and it's like it changes again.
It's survived much longer on the islands. Yeah? In Ireland and England, it was there much longer than here. It died out much earlier. Yeah? Roman influence was earlier and stronger here, I think, I guess. Yeah? But it's funny, yeah. This, when you mentioned the Brehon law, yeah, I think the Irish might have been quite good in laws and making laws, yeah, because there is this interesting fact that the Roman canon law was actually taken over from the Celtic Church, yeah. So it was actually the Celtic Church. They had a quite sophisticated canon law, and when the Roman Church started with their canon law, they took the Celtic one and then they developed it further. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting you use your language. They developed it further. I think what's the opposite of developing? For example, what you'd have had in the Celtic, my understanding, and also within Brehon law, that notion of restorative justice. So you do wrong, so you make amends. You acknowledge your wrongdone and you make amends. And there's that notion of that everybody has an honor price, so you pay that price. Yeah. What Rome brought in were the penitentials, which was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So this is where people were hanged and punished for wrongdoing. Where within the Brehon system, we didn't have that. We didn't have prisons.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And there are two different things. Yeah, there is this church law, this church canon law, is something else than the civil law. Yeah, I think it's quite different. Yeah, it really.
No, the Celtic Church would have been more akin to the Brehon one. So when the Roman law, as in Church Roman, that was more based on punishment, like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Which I think caused a lot of friction because, well, I think it's a problem worldwide when we have a punitive legal system as opposed to looking at restorative justice. It's a loaded one because when you look at, worldwide where we have places like South Africa, Rwanda, Northern Ireland, and when you have hurt experienced on both sides and evil perpetrated by both sides on the other, how you have some kind of peace and reconciliation and that notion of restorative justice. It's challenging, but I'm not so sure how the punitive system actually works.
It is challenging, but it is really, I think there is quite a lot of energy behind the idea. There is restorative justice is really, let's say, I think it has a strong influence currently, hasn't it? There's strong movements behind it, yeah.
I would hope so. I would hope it would grow. When you look at, I mean, when somebody perpetrated crime against me and or a member of my family, my first reaction is they should be put behind bars, and because I'm angry and I'm upset. And then I think, and it's like, well, no, that's not going to do anything, because if it did, we'd have nobody in prison. It would have worked a long time ago, you know.
Even in like in Extinction Rebellion, when they sort out conflicts, they use the term restorative justice, and even in this in mediation, there is this, let's say, this part of it, this restorative justice, and it's getting stronger and stronger, isn't it? It's.
I hope so. And remember, you know, if conflict is going to be resolved, I mean, that maybe it's a big word, resolving as opposed to managed, when both parties recognize that they have too much to lose to maintain the conflict, something shifts. But if one side gains by continuing with the conflict, they'll do so and sabotage any attempts. So it's about recognizing that and really, really focusing on restorative justice.
I think this is really something in Druidry we should engage much more. Yeah, I mean, it's not so easy. We don't have, let's say, the standing of a bishop, of a Catholic bishop or an Anglican bishop, of course. Yeah, we're not so many. Yeah, so they have, just by their position, they might have in peacekeeping or peacemaking, they have more influence in doing this. Yeah. But we have this history, and we could really invest more energy into it. Yeah, I know on our website we have a mediation script, I think, so what we can use. But yeah, there's potential behind it. Yeah.
Yes, there's another task for you, Stefan, to develop that.
No.
Yes, because there is on the website, isn't there? There's a kind of an online course in a small one. There's a PDF on mediation.
It's PDF, yeah, I think.
Yeah, and I think the ability to mediate, or for people who are willing to engage in mediation, can be incredibly powerful, rather than maintaining the conflict. Yeah. But I mean, you have to be really, really honest with yourself. Do you want to stay fighting over this issue, or do you really want to work at resolving it? Anything else? What other discoveries did you make with your research into?
This one very exotic. Yeah, I think it was in the 2 touchstones ago. I came across that this Abbot, this Trithemius, he even made a prophecy, and let's say it's over 500 years ago now, and he prophesied a new religion coming.
Oh,
and and I thought, what was it? Druidry, yeah. And I thought, okay, I followed this idea. Could it be? Could he meant Druidry even? Yeah, and it was, let's say, it was around 1508 something when he did it. Yeah? So it was shortly before the Reformation started. So maybe the Reformation was already in the air at this time. Okay. But he himself, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he started with Druidry. So and I thought, okay, when he makes a prophecy about a new religion, and he is himself the founder of it, yeah. So then he was quite clever, yeah, because he could. So I thought, so he either meant the Reformation when it meant anything at all. I don't know, yeah, but he made this prophecy, yeah. And it could be the Reformation, but I thought, okay, this is a new religion. It's just a new sect within a religion. It's a new group within Christianity, but it's not a new religion. But Druidry at this time would be a new religion. So I thought he prophesied it as a religion 500 years ago. I thought it was quite amazing.
Interesting. Do you regard Druidry as a religion?
Well, I regard it as a lot of things. Of course, it's different for everyone. Yeah, for me, it's a religion, it's a philosophy, it's a culture. It's a lot. Yeah, I think it's a perspective to say what it is. Yeah, or a personal decision. For me, it's also a religion. And also, of course. Yeah.
What makes you call it a religion? What's your understanding of religion?
It is, let's say, going back to your roots, going a spiritual path, being in a community, maybe celebrate the cycle of the year. You have gods, goddesses. It's all there in many parts of a religion. We even have the story of Taliesin and has a myth. Is a religious myth. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So there are many parts, and also what is sometimes not quite obvious, but even the mystical path through the Druid grades is even, I think it can compete with mystical paths in other religions too, yeah, like Buddhism or Christian mystic. It's there is a path, but it's not so obvious. Yeah, we don't call it normally mystics. But if you go in and compare what mystics did and do with the religions, there's even a science about it to compare it. But we also have these components to say we have a path to experience the transcendence or the divine. Yeah? So we don't have to be how you say we can be self-confident. Yeah, in this area, but we don't need to go to other religion to go on a mystical path. We have it. Yeah, we must open it. It's not always clear. Yeah, so we have. I think when my experience with the course was there is sometimes you see it, but sometimes it's me. I was not always aware where it leads to, and sometimes I was. You can be superficial about it.
Yeah.
And you go over it, and it doesn't fall deep or goes deep. But sometimes when you stop a moment, or maybe it takes a while, and you look backwards, and then you realize, oh wow, there was more than I thought. Yeah.
The reason I asked you the question about religion, because it's often a quite an emotive word and there's just some comments here. Aaron, I don't know if you're Aaron or Aaron. It becomes a religion for me when someone asks, "What's your religion?" Because it really is the best answer I can think of, but it's so much more. And then Blake says, I can understand why some people have a bad reaction to the term religion, often due to a negative experience previously in life with a less than healthy manifestation of religion. However, I can agreeably see Druidry as a religion under Stefan's analysis so far. As Stefan said earlier, it really depends on one's perspective. That's an interesting one, because for some, a religion involves dogma and a set of rules and regulations and a good book. And of course, certainly OBOD does not have dogma and doesn't have that good book, but that we all live and operate from our own internal moral compass, and that where we take responsibility for our actions, we look at the world through an ethical lens, but that we don't have, say, dictats and told how we are to be. And Zane, spiritualism is much deeper than religion. So many people with religion only go through the motions and do not really think for themselves, at least in the US. I love Druidry because it's spiritual, and for me it is classically romantic beauty with an element of strangeness and mystery. And then somebody else, Beth, says, I think I view Druidry as universal nourishment, physical, lifestyle, spiritual, emotional, psychological. For me, it's all connected. So I don't know if there's a lot of comments there. Do you want to, if you want to respond to any of those?
I mean, I agree. Yeah, this term religion is a problematic one. Yeah, and we are freer. We are not dogmatic.
Yeah.
So therefore, yeah, I see the problem. Yeah. On the other hand, yeah, if somebody says it's my religion, then I think it's also totally all right. Yeah? It can be a religion. It's a spirituality. We are not dogmatic. Actually, I'm not even aware if of all religions are dogmatic. Yeah, I don't know if Buddhism is very dogmatic. Yeah, they have a path you can go. I think they are even free to think. Yeah, so not.
Sorry, I've missed. I don't know if I heard you saying Buddhism is dogmatic.
There are religions which are not. They are less and more dogmatic. Let's say. Yeah, if you are, let's say, in the Orthodox Church or in the Catholic Church, is very restricted. But there are other groups in our religions which are less dogmatic. So, but I see it can be problematic this term. I know, yeah, it's of course.
I know in Hinduism, it seems to have a broad. You have a huge pantheon there, and I think there are different. Hindu paths, because I remember talking to a Hindu whose parents are obviously Hindu, but come from two different Hindu strands, for the want of a better word, and yet there's no issue. It's everybody, like a bit like Druidry, is that they're free to, I suppose, work with whatever deity suit them. They're probably common values, but that it isn't dogmatic.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, it's mostly it is the case. Yeah, but if in some areas they don't, it's not always so peaceful. When you look under the surface, sometimes they say, "Oh no, you're Shakti. I don't like your Shakti. I have Shiva or whoever." Okay. Then there is quite, yeah. It's maybe more tolerant, but not always. Even in Buddhism, they fight against each other. They have Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana. They all say, "Oh no, they are not good. I'm better." Yeah, so this. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a lot of. I mean, a lot of pagans do the same, or even Druids. Like, I'm more authentic than you are, and I think it's a sad waste of time. It's like all the important thing is that I am the Druid I am, and you are the Druid that you are. And I remember Kathleen Matthews. I don't know if you were at the 50th anniversary in Glastonbury in 2014.
We've met there actually. We've met there actually. Yeah, I've been there.
Sorry, my memory is that we met in Germany. Okay.
There is even a picture of the two of us in the book from the event.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's maybe on the CD. There is this CD in the book.
Yes, yeah.
There is where we chat, where we have a talk. Yeah, you see me more from the back here. I have my bardic blue.
Okay.
Mantle sort of on there.
Oh, it's interesting because I remember Kathleen Matthews talking about she was giving her talk, and then at the very end, it's sometimes it's hard to remember what people say, and I remember somebody will give a talk, and I'll say that was amazing. What did they say? I don't know, but I really enjoyed it, and I loved it, and I just absorbed it, and it's gone into my being. Well, with Kathleen. She said, and if somebody ever says, "Oh, you call yourself a Druid, do you?" And you say, "I don't call myself a Druid.
I am a Druid."
I'm a Druid. Yeah. And that is what's so important. And it's about your ownership of it, not stealing it from somebody else. And Blake has made a comment there that, authenticity arguments are so tiring. I agree, and a waste of time. I'm more authentic to you. How can I claim it's a bit like telling you I love my children. Why do I have to tell you that? It's a given, and it's about walking our own path and being who we are. You mentioned, mysticism. So can you talk a bit about your own? I know Philip had a tea, I don't know how many years ago, are you a magician or are you a mystic? How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I know, yeah. This is always the question, yeah. Are you, let's say, the keeper of the energy or someone who is the director of the change. Yeah? And I think, when I'm honest, I'm more a magician, because I like to influence stuff. Yeah. So I'm let's say I cannot leave the things as they are. So I try to influence. I don't like the word influencer. It's more like it's too YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But I feel, let's say personally, also as a mystic, because I go into I'm looking for the experience. So I think I'm a bit both. Yeah.
When you think of your mystical experiences, can you share, what would you say has been the most profound mystical experience you've had that you'd be happy to share?
There is, let's say, from my Buddhist time, when you are on a meditation retreat, let's say, and you meditate for 1 or 2 weeks, and then you go out into nature, and then it is a total different thing. Yeah. Then you believe the stories in the mythology. Yeah. There was this, there is when for example Buddha was born, yeah, and he walked in the forest as a baby. He could directly walk, yeah, and wherever he put his feet, there came a lotus flower out of it. Yeah. So I thought, okay, nice story. Yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah, it's mythology. Okay, it must be this way. Yeah. But then when I went out after, let's say, a longer meditation routine and went into the nature, I could really feel it. Yeah, because everything was so magic. Yeah. A flower, a tree, was all like, oof, yeah. This was a mystical experience. And another one I had was also in nature, because I try to get these experiences, let's say, when I do it, maybe in meditation, but in fact I more get it in nature for whatever reason. Yeah. Maybe I need it to condition myself to then get it later. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. But when, in this valley I just told about this valley of the goddess, yeah?
Yes.
On the other side of the Rhine, yeah. I really, when I came into this valley, I could feel the presence of the goddess. It was really the case. And then, so this was a mystical experience, I think. And then I made a prayer, and this prayer it fulfilled a couple of days later. Yeah? And this was a very personal experience. My father was in, he had Alzheimer's for a couple of years. So he was close to his end, let's say. Yeah? And then I prayed, let's say, and I asked so to the goddess, so when she thinks it's time that he goes, then it is okay now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 days later he died. Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
It's very moving.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So you mentioned hobbies. What other hobbies have you?
Apart from family and Druid hobbies, or
I mean, it's interesting. You're the only one I've met who's actually referred to Druid hobbies. So I'm curious about this. So please elaborate.
Yeah, as I said, I follow strands in Druidry. Yeah? This was this historic thing.
Yes.
And there was also, let's say, Carrot-Win's trunk, for example. Yeah.
Go on.
So her brew, how you say brew? Yeah.
Her brew, yeah.
The brew, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So and then this was a very please don't tell anyone what I tell now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's my secret. So I only share with you. Yeah. So don't go out with it. I came across with this Amazon shamans, yeah, and their ayahuasca drink. Okay. And I read a bit about it and read a book, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, yeah. So there are so many parallels, yeah, between about Carrot-Win's brew and what they drink. There is this shape shifting. There is this gaining wisdom and oneness, horror trips even, yeah. So what Taliesin or Koyan experience was a horror trip, basically, yeah. And this is what they experience sometimes too when they drink it. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. Is this Carragom's brew? Yeah, what they have. And then I said, okay, I must try it. And all my friends told me, you're mad. But I said, okay, no, I give it a go. Yeah. So I had it twice, and the first time was really, I had only the side effects. Yeah, no vision, no oneness, no only the dirty side. Yeah. So this wasn't very nice. Yeah. And the second time, it was also not very nice. There was also a bit of a horror trip part of it, but then I gained also this insight bit also, and this visions. But it was also, I thought afterwards, it was not, let's say, responsible for me to do it as a father with kids, etc. I thought, no, this was not very. I don't do it again. Yeah, but I think I got, let's say, a taste of Carragom's brew. Indeed, yeah, there was a part of it. Yeah. I didn't have shape shifting, but I think this unfriendly getting of insight, this unnice, unpleasant, let's say, it's not that there is not a silver tablet and you get this wisdom. You get it punched in your face. Yeah, you get it, and you cannot stop it. And this wasn't nice. And I think it was a kind of a Taliesin experience. Yeah, when he ran away from Carragom, he couldn't say, okay, it's okay now. Yeah, so can we please stop it? No, you get it if you want or not.
Would you be happy to share those insights that you got?
Yeah, one very drastic one was, my kids, they have this, let's say, electronic babysitter sometimes, a tablet. Yeah.
Yes.
And I could really see how in this how you say, in this moment, yeah, where they get drawn into a dangerous, evil world. Yeah.
Yes.
And this was, I'm not a too moral person. I'm just a normal guy, yeah, with all goodies, baddies. I have my fun, yeah. But here, and I have also let's say, a big conflict that they use a tablet. But here I could really see that they get drawn into a world. I have no control over it. And it really frightened me, what I have seen in this moment. Yeah. So this is what I also saw, all these funny color pictures. There is this ayahuasca art where they paint what they see, this funny patterns and colorful patterns. I have also seen this, yeah. But the inside bit, this was what was very rural.
Which was very what? Rural?
Well, no, this was very this was a bit frightening, yeah.
Okay.
Seen, yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting I hadn't come across. You're the first person to articulate this to me. That notion of a journey with ayahuasca or any of those teacher plant medicines, as like being chased by Carragom. Because when you think of Gwion Bach, what it was like shape shifting in order to protect himself, and as soon as he thinks he's okay, he's not. There she is in another form, ready to nip him or whatever it is. It's a fascinating experience. So you won't do it again.
No, I had enough. Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I think it's like often insights, and some of the best lessons are the hardest lessons we've learned, that we pay. It comes with a price, that we've paid a price for whatever the insights we get. And in some way, that's a good thing. It's that, maybe wisdom, insight doesn't come to us easily. We work for it in some way, or it comes through struggle or some kind of trial.
It does, yeah. And it's sometimes painful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you're working as a banker.
No, I'm not. Actually, I'm working as a consultant, as a business consultant. But I work for banks, let's say. It's my business, my industry, let's say.
Okay. It's really interesting. The first time, I always assumed members of the order were kind of, nature-based people. And I remember the first, I went to a healing or ritual and meditation workshop in Glastonbury with Kate and Barry Riley. Were doing them at the time. Now Matt McCabe and Penny Billington do them. And I remember this was my first time in Glastonbury, and I was there the day before and walking down the street, and I was waiting to see people with pointy hats, because to me it was just like Diagon Alley for any Harry Potter fans. And then the next, and I thought, oh my God, this is just such a strange place to be. And then I went into the Chalice Well, which is where the workshop is, and I put my head in the door, and I saw these ordinary people who were dressed normally. And I thought, oh, this is the wrong place. And then Kate or Barry, hello, are you here for the ritual? And I said, yes. Am I in the right place? Yes, I am. And then I discovered people who were into computers. They worked in computer industry. They were bankers. They were this. And I thought, oh my God, these are ordinary people who deal with machines and deal with technology, and they're druids. So it was just a fascinating discovery that there's that the technological world that helps things tick over, and then there's this other piece. And I remember, discovering about the message board, and I'm thinking, well, druids can't be using technology and online. I can't imagine that. There was, I think, this is the Druids had a pub on and it's not my thing. I never did. And now look at us online and doing ceremonies online.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And I think Blake says, I think a bit of our effectiveness for positive work in the world is that we are spread across so many sectors of life for day jobs. I think that's so true. I think it's lovely that it doesn't matter what your day job is, but that there's that commonality of shared spiritual experience. And there's Floriana says, what Stefan shared with us made me think he could find this core shamanic research on digitalization interesting. She's actually put in a link there that you may be able to, that you can look at afterwards. Yeah. So you're a consultant to the banks. So what are their other interests within Druidry? I know, are you a herbalist, or have you interest in?
Yes, I mean, I do. Let's say herbalism as when I need it. Yeah. So we actually produce, let's say, some medicine ourselves, but I'm not, let's say, a blind believer in all kind of stuff here. I'm not. I have problems to believe in homeopathy. Yeah.
Yes.
But
you believe in homeopathy? You do?
I'm not. Yeah. So I believe there is a lot of good, let's say, plant medicine, which is kind of proven. And this is what I, since I'm a Druid, I produce also myself. Yeah, for example, my younger son has asthma, and he was on, let's say, on medicine. Yeah, and it was clear when he takes it for a longer period, it will go chronic. It will make it worse in the long run. It is good in the short run, but worse in the long run. So I thought, okay, we have to do something. And then I found out that, let's say, frankincense is good and other herbals. And then we started to brew our own medicine, frankincense oil, and it really helped. So we could reduce and then leave away all the rest, and he's better than ever. Yeah. And so and all kind of medicine we brew now. Yeah. So
how do you do that? Do you make teas, or do you make tinctures like with alcohol, or how do you do it?
Mainly with oil, actually. So we use oil to
to extract it.
To extract it or cook it in, or make oil which you can put on your skin or take it as drops.
So for your son, I'm just interested in the asthma. I'm not suggesting anybody else with asthma try this, but I'm really curious because I use homeopathy as well as I'm a herbalist too, and I have found homeopathy at times really, really good for certain things and not for others. So so with the frankincense, so you're using the essential oil and you're putting in. Were you working with the actual resin?
No, with the there is an extract, this Borrelia serrata extract. So it is not the essential oil. It is but it's a concentrated powder. Let's say, it's in the resin. There is the percentage of this Borrelia serrata. It's called. It's not very high. So, but you can buy an extract where there is 65% normally. You can buy. And this is what is used in medicine. In India, for example, they give it people with asthma. And there was even a professor in Germany who tried it out with asthma patients, and he found out that really it reduces, let's say, the appearance of asthmatic. How you say when it happens?
The asthmatic attacks. Yeah.
Yeah, the attacks. Yeah, and so it reduces the frequency of attacks. And it reduces the impact, the how strong it is in the end. So it works on both sides. It reduces frequency and so yeah. And I found out what they use, and then I bought it, and we
You do it yourself.
Yeah.
Beth Amos says black pepper essential oil is the one I swear by for my asthma. So it's an interesting the different possible remedies for all of these things. And I think it's wonderful to have I suppose a collection of resources for your own health to be able to take care of yourself when you're sick. I mean, that's not to say you don't go when it's necessary, to professionals, but I think it's lovely to be able to have some agency over how you can take care of yourself.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have a daily? Do you have a daily practice?
I would like to have one. Yeah, I'm not meditating daily. Yeah? I did it before, but I'm not doing it at the moment. Yeah, I think on a daily basis I read spiritual texts.
Okay.
This is what I really do daily. Yeah, and I'm in a network of people where they share on a daily basis. Let's say spiritual things, yeah. So I would say this is my daily practice. Maybe, yeah.
Do you have a book that you'd recommend? You say, a spiritual book that you would recommend, or is there one that you're taking with that you're reading currently that you actually?
How much time do we have?
Oh,
no, I think there are so many books. Depends what one has read. Funnily, I got recommended a book from Christianity. Yeah? It's from Julian of Norwich.
Oh yes.
She's a woman. She has a male name, but she's a woman. Yeah, and also in parallel I read the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah? It was recommended to me, so I read it. Yeah? As I said, I'm universal mystic. Yeah, I read
Julian of Norwich. Her book. And was the year 600? She was the first woman to have a book published in English.
Yeah.
And she lived in isolation. She lived in I think in a tiny cell.
Yeah.
So, and she had a window, and she communicated with the community, and they gave her bread through the window. But she spent her life in that, a bit like a COVID pandemic, isolation, and she spoke through the window to people.
Yeah.
which I just find
She's amazing. I think she
fascinating.
lived 600 years ago. I think 1300 something she lived, I think.
Yes, it was 600 years ago, not year 600. So her book, but it was a woman, yes, and her book was published in English.
Yeah. And it's amazing what she has a totally different view on Christianity, because she says things like, God, she had a near-death experience, you might know, yeah? And at this moment, she got this huge mystical experience in this time. And in this mystical experience, she found out that God is male and female. So there is God and Goddess. Wow, yeah. And that even, how you say, pleasure or lust is from God.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not Catholic, I think, as far as I know, yeah. So there is this pleasure part, she said, it comes from God, yeah. It's not anti-God or whatever you say. Yeah? And all these things, this positivity, this Michael Fox kind of Christianity.
Yes. You mean Matthew Fox?
Matthew Fox, sorry, Matthew Fox, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she is, I think, quite in line with Matthew Fox from an idea. She doesn't believe in even she at this time, she didn't believe based on this mystic experience, in original sin, but more in kind of an original blessing, or in this Catholic Augustine sins crap is she's quite opposite, and that is I quite like. Yeah.
I love that. Somebody mentioned way back, but I wasn't able to attend to it, is Pelagius was an early Christian here, and he traveled, and he had, who was he fighting with? Who chased him to the, I think Pelagius means he who journeys, but he didn't believe in original sin either. And I don't know, was it St. Augustine had a big row with St. Augustine. Yeah. I think he met his demise in Jerusalem or something. But it was, again, just to bring that back, I can't remember who made the comment around Pelagius, whose big thing was around his denial of original sin. And I just love that notion of Julian of Norwich, that it's an original blessing rather than an original sin. I logically, it makes no sense to me that babies are born with original sin on their souls. That's.
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly something, we have certainly our shadow sides. I think it's not about this. There are evil deeds in the world. There are people doing crazy stuff. Yeah. So there is this part, but it's maybe not. It's not our core. Yeah. It's I think this is what Pelagius, I think, meant. He didn't really deny sin as such, but he didn't say we are not originally. Let's say from our origin we are not sinful. We are made, let's say, as godlike. How you say in the
Yes, I like that, because I've come across this notion that, I mean, here we are talking about sin and we're Druids when we don't have a list of them.
Oh,
yeah. But that notion of sin as it's not you doing evil deeds, but it's turning away from yourself. And I think it's turning away from the divinity within yourself. That's so that notion of a original sin, we're born with an original blessing, but when we turn away from ourselves and our own divinity, then things tend to, I suppose, go awry. And that's maybe a positive view of looking at evil, or when people do things that are not so good.
There's hope, yeah.
As somebody says here, wait a second, we'll have a look. Sin means to miss the mark. It's an archery term. I think it speaks to inherited trauma. I wonder, do you have a view on that?
Inherited trauma? Yeah, sure. It is, when we have a bad conscience, yeah, it is maybe, it is also, isn't it? If you have this trauma, if you have bad conscience, this is a symptom of depression, yeah? And so it is so sin is another word for a bad conscience, and and this feeling of, what you say, you're a psychologist, what you say, it's if you make yourself, if you blame yourself, yeah, it is when it is a symptom of depression, yeah. And getting rid of it is a therapy kind of thing. So even this bit in the church, when they, let's say, take away sins, when is an antidepressant thing. But what they did in the end was, let's say, too much sin stuff. Yeah, if you suffer from this bad conscience and you get healed from it, then it's what the church, or what is good about the idea. Yeah, but then there can so many bad things happen around the idea. Yeah, so
absolutely. And you know, that notion when Jung talk about or I suppose the biblical thing is, if you, what is it? This is an incorrect quote because I'm not a very good biblical scholar. You know, if you do evil, if your one hand does, you cut it off, or you cut off that bad part of you. Where Jung talks about, you know, befriend your shadow, embrace it, and through that you're aware of it. So when you are aware of it, you're less likely to act out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to accept it. You have to. You don't have to. Denying it is not. It doesn't make it better, really.
No.
It doesn't heal it. It's.
Absolutely. So, what has been your greatest achievement?
Ooh, in Druidry or in life?
Anything in life.
Oof. Well, it's I don't know. It's I don't know. I do what I can in life. Well, I have a family, yeah, so I'm happy to have them. Yeah, 3 kids.
How old are they?
Oldest is 15, youngest is 10.
Oh, lovely.
I started late. Yeah, they could be older if I have started earlier.
I started late too. Anyway, it's lovely. It's lovely. I think you're maturer at. Well, I think I am. I think I've done a better job at parenting as an older parent than had I been younger. I think I matured nicely.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You know, you've such a wide range of interests. What is it that brings you joy?
I love to, let's say, to do the teaching part also, to give, let's say, to you know, we have a Druid group here, yeah. So, and we have a weekly meditation group, for example, yeah. So when I instruct meditation, I you know, so this bit I really enjoy, yeah. So, I mean, meeting the people also. I mean, the let's say in Druid life, yeah. So I have also private enjoyment, yeah. But in Druid, yeah, you know, of course, I like to see the people, yeah. I even, you know, it gives me joy if I found out, let's say, curious, funny facts, yeah, in Druid.
So, are you actually meeting physically now? Are you? What's the situation in Germany?
Yeah, we have started again. Yeah, we have nearly no incidents at the moment. We have, I think, in Germany, incidents of 11. I think in England there are 600 now. I don't know. Yeah, so we have.
Are you talking about deaths, or are you talking about cases?
No cases. This per 100,000. This incidence number.
Oh.
So we have. I think in Germany we have 10 per week in 100,000. So there is virtually virtually nothing at the moment. Yeah. So we can meet. We have no lockdown because there's nothing going on. We have not the situation as in Great Britain, for example, where they have a lot of cases. It's not. I mean, it develops slightly in this direction, but we are far away from the situation. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear
that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have a lunacy ceremony then?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. If not all are on holidays, it could happen. Yeah, I might be on holiday.
Yeah, because we had our first year in Kilkenny for the solstice. It was just lovely, and we will have one for Lunasa as well. And it's just lovely to be able to be back out standing. You know, I have a grove here in the garden of trees, and to be able to stand, you know, under the sky with the community is just wonderful. Stephanie says the US is bad again with cases per day, 800 plus a day here now that the Delta variant is here. Yeah, it's growing here. Yeah, our numbers are going up, but our death rate is very low, and our hospitalization is low, and our ICU is low. But it's still strict here. You know, we've some freedom, but you know, if you haven't got a vaccine, you can't go into a restaurant and you can't go into a pub. They're opening for the first time now in next Monday. They've been closed since last October, I think.
You know, we also have some restrictions, but I think some, in our group, in our Druid group here in Wiesbaden, all of them are vaccinated. So somehow it feels that it's not there anymore. Yeah. So
okay.
we are not vulnerable anymore because we are vaccinated, most of us. Yeah. So we can we can do hugging and all this. It feels so good. Yeah? It's so nice.
Great, it is. It's lovely. And the thing is that I know with the UK, you know, people who have been doubly vaccinated are getting the Delta variant. So you don't seem to have it anyway in
Delta. Oh yeah, we have it. We have it. Yeah,
you have it, okay.
50% of the cases are Delta.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
Okay, great.
Therefore, it will rise. We will have the fourth wave in autumn, I guess.
Yes, so many people are predicting that.
But it's, you know, at the moment we are very, let's say, even if it's doubles, yeah, from 10 to 20, it's still nothing, yeah. So it's still very low, yeah. But there will be a moment when it's over, I guess. Yeah?
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Yes, Blake says, sadly, people who are fully vaccinated in the US are getting the Delta variant. It's true. Anyway, it's one of these, I suppose, really hard. I mean, this is my first big world challenge, you know, because I didn't experience a war. I'm too young to have lived through wars or anything like that. And this is it's a really interesting, unknowing place to be. And it's great to hear your optimism. Before we end, Stefan, you said you enjoy your teaching. Have you any words of wisdom for our viewers this evening?
Oh no!
I know this is really unfair, but you walked yourself into
an unfair question. Yeah. No, you got me. Yeah. Ooh. It depends in which direction.
It's open to you.
Wisdom is always connected to a topic, isn't it? It's for a case.
I mean, what gem sustains you? You know, what life lesson have you learned that, you know, sustains you?
It is, let's say, truth and honesty. So I'm not, let's say, shy away for any truth, however uncomfortable it may be. So I'm not lie to myself with anything. Yeah? So only if your spirituality tells you something and it sounds strange, then it might be strange. Yeah? So, so this is, I think, the truth is where I don't compromise with, let's say, with kindness or friendliness. I'm I'm practicing this, yeah, and it is, there is this key conflict between honesty to people and friendliness.
Yes.
And so therefore you can bargain between the two. Yeah, you don't have to be totally honest to people. You don't. Yeah, but the truth to myself, this is clear, and I never. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being honest with ourselves is the first one, because we can fool ourselves very, very easily. So I think it's one of the a great gift to ourselves is to be honest with ourselves. Thank you so much. And we have one more question. This is the last question I ask people is, what is your favorite, well, it's two parts. What is your favorite season? And what is your favorite ceremony, when you think of the Wheel of the Year?
Okay. Let's say it's a good question. It's funny, so Lunasar is, I think the season I have less, let's say the fewest, the less celebrated, because I'm always on holiday, yeah, and I'm not. Yeah. So I'm on camps, yeah. You can call it Lunasar, yeah. I mean, Samhain, of course, I like Alban Atan.
Yeah.
It's yeah. But I also like warm summer nights, so Beltane and yeah. What I also very much appreciate is, let's say, seeing the sun set. The opposite of sunset is the sunrise.
Yes.
Sunrise, at the summer solstice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is it's hard to say. Yeah, I think.
I think from what you're saying, your answer is that you like all of them, or it's like well, wherever I am, that's the one I like, whatever season it is. Yeah. I just have to say, I normally suffer from prickly heat, and when it's really, really hot, and I haven't been aware of humidity, and yet other people are telling me how difficult it is and how exhausting the heat is. And I was cycling between 12 and 2. I'd cycle 20 kilometers a day into the market, and I'm really glowing in this heat. It's like something has happened to me, because I can suffer, because I'm very pale skinned and I can burn easily, and it's just been brilliant. So I'm really, really enjoying where we are right now, which is, thank goodness. And as they say, this too shall pass. I mean, it said in May, we had a very wet and windy May. And I remember years ago, during a similar wet and windy May, there's an expression, a wet and windy May fills the barns with fodder and hay. And this is really haymaking weather. So let's hope it extends into August, when I'm taking my month off as well. But I don't mind. So I just enjoy it. I just thank you so much, Stefan. It's been such a joy talking to you. And I know from the comments that our viewers really, really enjoyed our conversation as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm just going to...
Thank you too, yeah. Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
Great. So don't go away anywhere. I'm just going to say goodbye to people. So listen, thank you so much for being here this evening. And thank you all for your comments. Stefan and I will read them. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So that will be my last one for this season. And then, so I'll be here next week with another guest, and then starting again in September. So have a good week, and wherever you are, or enjoy the rest of your evening, your morning, your afternoon, or wherever you are. And please be well. As I say, be geese lawn, and see you next week. So goodbye for now.